Hello, my dear students. How are you doing? Fantastic. That's what I like to hear. Let's make sure I'm at good head level here on the screen. I think that looks about right. And who am I? Kyle. Exactly. You know who I am. I'm possibly your favorite English teacher. But it seems like nowadays everybody says that. Even though I feel like I was the original. If somebody wants to research that, research it. I think I was the original. But there's so many English teachers nowadays, I don't know if I'm your favorite or not. But anyways, where am I from? I'm from Canada. And who do I teach? I normally teach Spanish speakers from Latin America. But of course, if you're from Russia, Brazil, Japan, India, wherever, I'm going to be speaking in English in all this video, and you're welcome to listen along with me. And this is a simple English video, so make sure that you turn on the subtitles right here. There's nothing wrong with using subtitles. If anybody tells you that there is something wrong with using subtitles to help you learn English or any language, well, you can tell them that Profe Kyle thinks that they're not very intelligent. And in today's simple English video, probably appropriate for intermediate speakers, but possibly pre-intermediate speakers, English learners could also use this video to improve their vocabulary, improve their listening, and of course, by improving your listening, you're also going to improve your pronunciation. And of course, by improving all of these things, you will improve your speaking. Even though the best way to improve your speaking is by speaking. Exactly. And the topic of today's video is why I don't teach in institutes. Because it's a common question I get. I get students that will say, Profe, why don't you come to Tegucigalpa, Honduras to teach English? Or why don't you come to Cuenca, Ecuador to teach English? Why don't you come to Cochabamba, Bolivia to teach English? And it's quite simple. Well, not super simple. I can't give you one reason. There's actually many reasons, which I have written down here. I have three reasons why I don't teach in institutes. This isn't to say that I never worked in any institutes. A quick rundown of my history, my work history teaching English. I taught at a private institute in Guadalajara, Mexico. That was in 2015. I taught for 1 year at a private university in Cartagena, Colombia. That was 2015 to 2016. Afterwards, I went back home to Canada and I taught at Open English for 1 year. So I think that was like 2016 to 2017, something like that, or maybe 2017 to 2018. But it was for 1 year. And I also taught for an online English teaching company from China called 51 Talk. So I have a decent amount of experience teaching for other institutes, but I don't want to go back to institutes, and I'm going to tell you why, because it's shocking to some students. I guess the first thing you need to know is that I'm from Canada, and Canadians aren't as entrepreneurial as Americans, but I would say I'm more entrepreneurial than the average Canadian. And my goal in life isn't to be a poor teacher for the rest of my life. The main reason I still continue teaching English is because I believe that I have the best methodology for teaching English to Spanish speakers. I believe that there is a huge market for this methodology, and I would love to find a way to make a business out of it. So that's definitely one reason. It seems like a lot of people that follow me, they don't have the same mentality of creating their own business and running their own business. Their main goal is to get a good job at a good company and get a good salary, and they assume that everybody wants the same. And I respect those people. In this world, we need workers. We need people that want to make a salary. It's just, that's never been what I wanted to do in my life. I've always wanted to have my own business and run my own business. I'm not very successful at it, but still, I prefer doing this than having a boss and being dependent on a company for my income. I prefer to be dependent on myself. So yeah, maybe you're one of those people that wants to get a good salary, work for somebody else. That's awesome, that's totally fine. It's just, it's not my dream to do that. So there's one reason. Now there's also 3 other main reasons that I don't work for another company. First main reason is that most institutes, from my experience, have a horrible methodology. I remember in Guadalajara, Mexico, the methodology was more or less just doing fill-in-the-blank exercises from a printed out workbook. And it was just a horrible methodology. It doesn't really work, and most students find it boring. The only time it's kind of interesting is if the teacher is interesting. But tell me, how is that a good methodology, just printing out a workbook with exercises and then using that in class? It's horrible. It's not an actual methodology. It's not something which can take a student from this level of English to that level of English. It's just practice, more or less. I also remember working for Open English. Open English, their methodology was more or less just creating a slideshow presentation. And in the slideshow presentation, very similar to the Institute, just a bunch of random exercises that more or less have the same topic in a class. So it's not really a methodology, it's just laziness. And from my experience, a majority of institutes in the world, whatever language it is, they're incredibly lazy. They make money because they're good at marketing, and, well, I think I'm going to talk about this a bit later, but the fact of the matter is that most people don't know how to learn a language. So they go to an institute, they don't know how to learn English, they're ignorant. I'm not trying to be offensive, but it's the truth. People are ignorant about how to learn a language. I would say the same thing to my parents. My parents are ignorant about how to learn a language. My parents would be the same as many people. They would go to an institute, they would believe that they're experts, and they would think that their methodology is the methodology you're supposed to use to learn languages, which isn't true. If you're one of those people, it's not true. There are dozens of different ways which are much better than the methodologies you'll find in institutes to learn a language. And so for me, as a somewhat intelligent person, it's hard for me to teach something which I know is crap. I just can't do it. I would prefer to create my own methodology, which I know isn't crap, and develop it and use it with my own students. So that's the first reason. Most institutes use a crap methodology that I don't support, I don't want to teach, and that I don't have confidence in. All right? Second reason that I don't want to teach at an institute is because a lot of the institutes are greedy or corrupt. Again, that's the truth. Talking about Open English again. I worked for them for 1 year in 2016, and I've seen some videos from more current students, and they're still using the outdated software that they were using, well, they have been using since probably 2012. I can't remember when they were founded, but they've been using Adobe, I think it's called Adobe Classroom or Adobe Rooms, pretty much ever since they started. And in 2016, it was outdated, and in 2024, it's definitely outdated. So it's obvious that Open English, for example, right now is just the institute I'm focusing on, but many institutes are like this. They're spending most of their money on marketing and hardly any money on improving their methodology and improving their platform. And for me, that's corruption. Maybe for you it's not corruption, but for me as a Canadian, that's corruption when the only thing you're focused on is selling, but you're not investing any of the money that you're making on improving the product for your customers. That's greedy, that's corrupt, and I don't feel comfortable working for a company like that. And not only that, Open English was not paying its teachers a lot of money. They were paying, at that time, $10 an hour per class, which for a native teacher from Canada, United States, is hardly any money at all. At that time, I was living at home with my parents. I wasn't paying any rent, so I just wanted a little bit of money to take some time to figure out what I want to do with my life. But yeah, as soon as I figured it out, I did not want to work for Open English. $10 is not a fair wage for an incredible teacher. So it's obvious the company is greedy. And I've heard the stories, maybe you've heard the stories if you're from Latin America, that you pay Open English and it's a monthly subscription. You try to cancel and it's almost impossible. Again, how is that not corrupt? How is that not greedy? How is that not a horrible business practice? So Open English and other institutes, they're constantly selling, making these promises that they can't keep. And when the students are unsatisfied, basically, they rob their money. So again, second reason I don't want to work for an institute is because a lot of them are greedy and they're corrupt. And the last reason, the third reason I don't work for an institute is many times the students are bad. Maybe you'll be offended by that because you're an English student. But I hope not, because I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you're probably a good English student. My complaint is with the bad English students. I remember teaching at different institutes, and I would say a majority of the students, not all of them, but a majority of the students, they were only there because their parents made them go. They didn't want to be there. They were just there because their parents wanted them to learn English. So they had no motivation, they weren't engaged in the classes, and if they were from an upper class family, it was just a pain in the neck trying to teach them because they felt entitled, they felt like the world owed them everything, and I do not want to teach those students. So by teaching for myself, I am able to ensure that a majority of my students, instead of a minority of my students, are incredibly engaged in my classes and they want to learn with me because they know when they pay me money, they're paying me money to teach them with my methodology and for me to teach them. So they're putting their money where their mouth is, as we say in English. So they're putting skin in the game. They're showing me that, hey, I'm investing in you, the teacher, to give me good English. I trust you. Whereas with the institute, many times they're just parents or companies paying the institute money so that their kids or their employees learn English, but they're not really engaged, they're not really motivated, and they feel entitled. And I don't want those students. So those are the three main reasons that I work for myself. I believe there was also the first reason at the very beginning, but that's kind of separate. But three main reasons. Again, most institutes have a bad methodology. Second reason, most institutes are greedy and corrupt. And the third reason is that students are, well, they're just bad students. So I prefer to avoid those things, and by teaching in my own institute, by having my own institute, I can ensure that I avoid those 3 things. So hopefully now understand why I have this YouTube channel, why I have my own website, why I create my own courses, why I've created my own methodology. It's because of this. So what's your opinion? Do you think English institutes are good places? Do you think they have good intentions? Do you think they have bad intentions? Give me your opinion down below in the comments. And hopefully you enjoyed this simple English video. Hopefully you found new vocabulary that you can use in the future. Yeah, and if you have any questions about the vocabulary that I used, then yeah, again, don't be afraid to ask me in the comments and I will reply. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next simple English video, my dear student.